We're at Antler Restaurant here, and he is going out of his way to show us the leg. What animal would that be, guys? So what he's doing here is to mock us by bringing the leg of an animal to this table where people are only supposed to be dining, where this is not supposed to happen, of course, and he's doing it deliberately to mock and taunt.
Right in front of us because we're vegans. This is what this restaurant is doing.
The police specifically entered the restaurant to apparently confront the owner of his dismembering of the leg of a recently murdered deer in a dining area at the front window of his restaurant instead of the kitchen. I do see them smiling. That's unfortunate. The owner, a hunter, is smiling, rejoicing in the dismembering of that animal.
This is actually a rapidly gentrifying strip, and it's a new business, and we're telling them that if they want to have a future and they don't want to go out of business, that they can convert all of their items to vegan and not harm animals, not harm the planet, and just be a compassionate place with good energy. But right now there's a lot of really dark energy, and we just witnessed that.
We should all practice the golden rule, treat us as others as we'd like to be treated, and I wouldn't like anyone to kill me and eat my flesh, so I need to speak up for my fellow animals, and so that's why I'm here. And I hope this restaurant and every other restaurant in the world, every business goes vegan. It's the future. We should all be vegan now.
Using whatever tactics are necessary to propel these businesses to simply transition to veganism. Nobody wants them out of business. Nobody wants anyone to lose jobs. It's simply about doing something different that is equally or probably much more prosperous, because they're pretty empty tonight, and that is necessary for human health and for animals to live and for the planet to reverse its careening course towards environmental and other apocalypses.
For animal abuse!
It's not food!
It's violence!
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 Stop the torture! Stop the pain!
And let it be!
Hi, welcome to another edition of Speaking Freely. We're trying something different with a number of segments recorded over a number of days this week because we have a very special extended episode today. We have a very special feature regarding Antler Restaurant in Toronto. The video you saw during that extended opening was a video that was filmed by the vegan protesters outside of Antler, which subsequently went viral. We'll have more on that later. Other items that we're going to cover today include Mark Zuckerberg's testimony on Capitol Hill and a very insensitive tweet by a very insensitive woman out of Quebec. But first, a segment about Kinder Morgan and the economic disaster that is being caused by two fighting socialists and one completely useless prime minister. Kinder Morgan announced they were suspending all non-essential spending and operations on the Trans Mountain pipeline back on April the 8th. The pipeline itself has existed since 1953, but expansion plans were announced in 2012, and this expansion is what all the fuss has been about. The BC government and various Indigenous groups have opposed this pipeline expansion for ages, despite it going through repeated environmental assessments and other red tape before it was eventually approved. The BC government has also sparked a trade war with Alberta over the pipeline, with this war of words between the two provinces showing no end in sight. Justin Trudeau, Canada's incompetent, selfie-obsessed, rubber ducky sock-wearing moron, Prime Minister, has given lip service to the project, which means that while the federal government has approved the project, he is clearly deliberately avoiding the issue, preferring to allow the project to collapse on its own. That way, he thinks, he has an out, because he can honestly say, we approved the project. It isn't our fault that it failed. To a point, he would be right. The opposition to the project is obviously fighting a war of attrition. They've been hoping to keep the project stalled, tied up with protests and other obstruction longer than Kinder Morgan was willing to pursue the expansion, because money, as we all know, talks. The opponents of the project managed to turn it into a money pit, and ultimately, Kinder Morgan bailed out. This is the biggest travesty of the whole thing, of course. It means that crude oil will need to be transported across the mountains by other methods because the pipeline's capacity has been maxed out at this point, which means a greater probability of environmental damage. Pipelines are the safest way to transport crude oil, so it's insane that Trudeau has been dragging his feet on this. Now, what we need to have happen here is the BC RCMP need to be ordered to do their jobs, protect the assets of Kinder Morgan, and, if necessary, forcibly remove protesters from the work locations and get the project moving ahead. But the blame for this lies squarely at the feet of BC NDP Premier John Horgan, and also at the feet of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. Horgan is to blame because he is doing whatever he can to actively prevent the pipeline expansion from going ahead, and Trudeau shares blame because he is simply sitting on his thumbs. This will not only harm Alberta's economy, but Canada's economy as a whole, since it means higher costs for oil through transportation, greater competition from other locations, and overall, a deep hole in an already tenuous economy. Trudeau, Horgan, and others are playing politics with our futures, and we are all going to be worse off for it. Last Monday, the FBI raided Michael Cohen's office and home and seized documents containing privileged attorney-client communications from many of Cohen's clients, including President Donald Trump. Naturally, this provoked Trump into a diatribe against Robert Mueller, in which Trump claimed it was an attack on the United States itself. Trump is no stranger to exaggeration, of course, so he can't really give his comments any real weight other than to suggest they are perfectly in line with Trump's personality and character. He's blowing off steam, and this is how he does it. Personally, I'd rather have this kind of our president than the one who remains silent and keeps his emotions closeted. With Trump, we all know exactly where he stands all the time. We know what to expect from him, so we can plan accordingly. This is why I always work on the theory that, given the choice between an idiot and a crook, I'll choose the crook every time. I'm not saying Trump is a crook, but Hillary certainly was an idiot. The raid on Cohen's office and home are in relation to the Stormy Daniels scandal, in which Cohen paid $130,000 to Daniels during the last week of the 2016 election campaign so that she would keep quiet about a sexual encounter with Donald Trump in 2006. I doubt this will affect Trump in the long run. It is unlikely he is going to be compelled to testify in this case, but it could spell big trouble for Michael Cohen. It's a matter of law at this point. Could Cohen's payment to Daniels be considered an illegal campaign donation? It's a fine, nuanced point, and I can't really make a legal judgment. But I can say is what I think was going through Cohen's mind at this time. This is the last thing we needed this close to an election. It needs to go away. I'll pay her $130,000 to shut her up. I doubt he thought of it being construed to be a campaign donation. It even crossed Cohen's mind. He was too busy trying to get Trump elected, and that's the danger, of course, of being in a position such as Cohen. Mistakes like that are very, very easy to make. Then there's the whole question of whether paying her off was an ethical thing to do to begin with. If it didn't happen, then why would he pay her off? If it did happen, then she's blackmailing Trump, which is illegal and immoral. If it happened, the only way to really deal with it would be to take the power away from Daniels by having Trump disclose it, have Melania explain that she was aware of it for years and that they would work through it as a couple, and it was therefore nobody's damn business but theirs. But that's coming from my objective viewpoint, of course. When you're in the thick of a political minefield, you're not necessarily objective. This is a story that's not going to go away anytime soon. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. Programs like this take a lot of time and effort to put together, and I hope that my work, which I of course love doing, brings value to you. Now, if that's the case, and of course if you're able, please consider becoming a subscriber or a sponsor of this show. It's never expected, but it is most certainly always appreciated. To become a subscriber or supporter of the show, whether it's a one-time donation or a monthly sponsorship, head on over to makersupport.com/scbritain. There you can subscribe or donate in support of this program. Every little bit helps improve the show through new and updated equipment, researchers, better studio space, and so on. So please give it some thought, and at the very least, like this video and subscribe to my channel here. And that will help promote my channel and the program to others. Thanks. Mark Zuckerberg was on Capitol Hill this week after being called to testify regarding the massive privacy breaches at Facebook. Zuckerberg admitted that there was a breach and assured Congress that Facebook staff were investigating the issue and, over and above some changes he claims have been made already, more changes are coming to ensure that a breach like this will not happen again. Who really believes that? Let's be frank about this. Anything we put online becomes available for anyone else to see. Even so-called private information isn't necessarily private because, as we have seen with numerous companies, data can be hacked and stolen. That didn't happen with Facebook. Most of the data that was taken was from users' public profile information. But underneath this is an insidious issue, which I've seen pointed out by others. If I synchronize my contact list with Facebook, as I'm prompted numerous times to do, then I'm handing Facebook all kinds of names and phone numbers of people who are, likely, already on Facebook. I have no way of knowing what information these other people have allowed Facebook to know. And if I am friends with, say, John, and if I synchronize my contact list with Facebook, then Facebook receives John's name, address, and phone number. If John never handed over his address and phone number to Facebook, then Facebook now has information that John never gave them permission to have. I cannot control what Facebook does with John's information, so that's a massive, gaping security hole in the realm of data privacy. This is a serious issue because then we've also seen that Facebook has tracked every piece of activity we've ever done on their site. People who use Android devices have even reported that Facebook has kept records of every phone call and text message a person has made. And that's what we know. We know that Facebook has also at times tracked a person's location based on where a person is when they've updated their status. And how do we know it isn't monitoring the phone's internal GPS all the time? People have reported that Facebook has even served them advertising based on what they were talking about face-to-face with their friends at the time they got the ad. This is creepy stuff. I'm reducing my activity on Facebook as a result. I've already set up an account on minds.com, which seems to be much more secure with their data. I've also set myself up on gab.ai, which is similar to Twitter, but unlike Twitter, Gab doesn't ban people for ridiculous fake reasons. These are things I strongly suggest you consider doing as well. Protect your privacy, protect your data, protect yourself. Last Saturday's tragedy struck the community of Humboldt, Saskatchewan, when 15 members of their community senior hockey team were killed in a horrific bus crash. Our thoughts and prayers are with the community of Humboldt. A fundraising campaign on GoFundMe raised over $10 million for the families affected by the tragedy, which is an incredible outpouring of support. But that support does not appear to be universal. Freelance columnist Nora Lorito landed herself in hot water this week when she tweeted, "I'm trying to not get cynical about what is a totally devastating tragedy, but the maleness, the youthfulness, and the whiteness of the victims are, of course, playing a significant role." As you could probably expect, Twitter went insane, and Lorito has posted numerous horrible responses from people wishing her dead, raped, and various other horrible things. Now, nothing, and I repeat, nothing justifies that kind of vitriol. It's above and beyond the appropriate response. I've been told to kill myself before, and it really doesn't say anything about me, but it speaks volumes about the person saying it. However, that does not exonerate Lorito either. That tweet and the other tweets around it, she tried to clarify and explain her comments in subsequent tweets, saying that her comment was taken out of context and twisted. No, Nora, it wasn't. The context is clear. You suggested that the amount of money that was raised was largely due to the team being young, male, and white. That was an awful thing to say and was dripping with racism, sexism, and ageism. It was completely untrue as well. The color of the player's skin was, and should be, completely irrelevant. The gender of the players doesn't matter. The age of the players is not relevant either. This was a tragedy, pure and simple. But this, of course, exemplifies the attitude of the left. And make no mistake, Nora Laredo is a far leftist. She's an executive member of Unifor, which is a massive Canadian trade union, and unions are known for their collectivist attitudes. This is the level that the left exists at, however. It's based on jealousy, insecurity, and the belief that people are inherently evil. She's jealous of others who have more than she does, and she's insecure because she lashes out at those who criticize what she has said. In the case of her tweet here, she suggested that anyone who disagreed with her is a racist. Now, lastly, she believes that people are evil because she believes that, left to their own devices, people would screw others over and therefore need to be controlled by a small, elite group of people. That's classic socialism, and that's a frightening idea. Nora Laredo needs to seriously rethink her position. She's ideologically incorrect, insensitive, insulting, and she completely disgusts me. Shame on you, Nora. Shame on you. Before we continue, I just want to send a quick shout out to my friends over at GoalScape. Now, if you're anything like me, you find yourself looking at the squirrels rather than getting your work done. This can, of course, be a real problem for people who, like me, get distracted very easily, since focus and staying on task is a real key to success in life. GoalScape can help you with this. I've started using it, and I'm finding it very useful in both keeping myself focused, but also in breaking down the big projects into smaller steps to ensure that the job gets done, both successfully and as well on time. It's free to get started, and there's some downloadable software with a 14-day free trial period, which gives you the chance to determine if GoalScape is for you. So when you head over to GoalScape, make sure that you let them know that I've sent you, and you can do that by using the link here, stephenbritton.net/recommend/GoalScape. I have put that link into the description to this video, which will make it nice and convenient for you. So give GoalScape a try. Animal welfare and cruelty are always emotional and contentious issues, and it is normal for people to anthropomorphize, which is to attribute human emotions and characteristics to animals. We know that animals feel pain and definitely do have emotions. However, since our senses and experiences are totally different from other animals, how can we possibly know what is going on in their heads? How can you, for example, know what it is like to be a dolphin? And how can you truly know what a dolphin thinks and feels? Closer at home, of course, how do we really know what it is like to be a cat or a dog? Now, that is not to say that animals do not deserve appropriate care and attention, of course. I'm a huge advocate for humane treatment of animals. And I also find it incredibly difficult to hear a story of a crime involving animal cruelty. Now, a few years back, I heard a story about such a case on the radio, and I was so sickened by what the disgusting piece of filth criminal did to the victim family's cat that I had to pull over to the side of the road and just sit quietly for a few minutes while I gathered myself. I would personally rather go hunting with a camera than a rifle, but I do enjoy a good buffalo steak now and again. Now that, I fully admit, makes me a hypocrite. Now, this issue has come to a head in Toronto, where a group of vegan activists have been demonstrating outside of a restaurant called Antler, which is known for serving venison and other game on their menu. Now, last Sunday, I talked to the vegan group's main contact person, Marni Ugar, about the activities that have been going on outside of Antler. We did have some technical issues, but apart from the spots where we lost the connection, which I do note when they show up, I'm now going to present to you my entire conversation with Marni, unedited. Marni Ugar, thank you so much for joining me today.
You're welcome.
Okay, that's good to see you here. So now, Marni, you're a vegan, is that correct? You live a vegan lifestyle?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. So Now, the reading that I've done, Marnie, it suggests to me that veganism is a bit more than simply avoiding all animal products. So, why don't we get started at the top by maybe you could just tell us a bit about what veganism means to you and why you've chosen to adopt a vegan lifestyle.
Sure. Well, vegan is different than being animal rights activists. Some vegans live, as you said, the vegan lifestyle, but they're not active. I consider myself voice for the animals in addition to living. I don't use exploit animals, but I also advocate and stand up for them against injustice.
Okay, so it's safe to say, obviously, that you're an animal lover, right?
I love animals. By the way, just so you know, I grew up a meat eater, so I understand people that think that they can't give it up. But I also loved animals. I just didn't connect. I ate what my mom made for me, and it was only when I realized, wow, I'm eating an animal, that I initially became a vegetarian. That was 20 something years ago, before I discovered what dairy was, that a baby calf has to die because mom can't provide the milk for her baby and for people. And as soon as I discovered that, I went vegan.
Okay, that's an interesting thing. Veal is like, I am a meat eater, but veal is probably the only meat product that I flatly refuse to eat because I don't know. Like I saw a picture in a magazine about a veal calf standing in its like it was just horrendous. Now I don't know how true that actually is anymore, but that is what it is. So I definitely don't eat veal. And the one time I had it, and I felt terrible because I absolutely loved the taste of it, but I just personally choose not to not to eat veal. So, anyways, is there a diversity of opinion within the vegan community regarding what foods and what products a vegan person will choose to avoid?
No, there's no diversity. Vegan, you don't use animal products. So you can't say, okay, I'm wearing leather, I'm a vegan. It's just you don't use anything animal related.
That I was very surprised to find out that included honey, correct? Did you hear the question, or was it sort of lost the connection here?
Pete,
Okay, I think
can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you now. I think there was a little bit of a glitch with the connection there.
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Okay.
I'll repeat the question and then we can go from there. Okay, what some of the reading I did, honey was something that people avoid when they're vegans. Is that correct, as you understand it?
It's correct. I don't use honey. I know there's debate about it. I don't see the need to. If I want something, say, choose maple syrup, I just don't want to use anything animal related. And I know honey is an easy one to make fun of, but I just don't see the need to use anything animal related, such as honey.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. I'm just I'm just getting to a bit of an understanding as to where you're coming from. Okay, so you mentioned earlier activism. Um, is that a with now obviously you're an activist. Are there lots of vegans who choose to be activists, or is it a small percentage of the vegan community as you understand it? I know one of my closest friends has chosen to be a vegan, and I don't think he's much of an activist, but I don't know how diverse that is. So that's why I'm asking.
Okay, so the majority of people are not activists. The majority of people that are vegan, I don't know what the percentage is, but I'd say very, very few are really activists.
Okay, that's what I was thinking. All right, so moving now into a more specific the more specific story regarding what I don't know really what the right word to use here would be. Is it a conflict, a confrontation, a demonstration outside of Antler restaurant in Toronto? So I guess my maybe you can explain like the background to that, why you chose Antler as a place to go. What about Antler it is that that you decided to make the focus on them specifically? Because I know there's a huge number of restaurants in the Toronto area that don't offer a vegan menu. So I guess like, why did you choose Antler?
Okay, so I chose Antler because I do neighborhood activism. Started in the neighborhood, and similar to your banner there, as you know, they serve venison. So they had a chalkboard saying venison is the new kale, which caught my attention. And yes, they have vegan dishes. So people are saying, why Antler? But because they're in my neighborhood and they had that chalkboard out, and I investigated their menu, they also have foie gras, by the way, which I don't know what you think of that, but a lot of non-vegans won't eat that. It's banned in certain countries because it's so cruel. So I chose to go to Antler. It's not the first restaurant, by the way, I've gone to. I can only do one at a time. It's Roots. I and always sit down with her, have dialogue, see about menu changes, educate the public. We're not aggressive, we're not violent, and that's how that came about.
Okay, so yeah, I don't honestly I don't know too much about foie gras. I'll have to look into that. I think it's an organ of a bird, if I'm not mistaken. But that's an interesting thought. It's a pate, if I remember correctly. Anyway,
They feed.
I lost you there, I think. Can you try that again?
Using shoving overfeed, force feed ducks. They force feed. You can look it up. It's very cruel. Like I said, it's a practice that banned in other places for a reason. So
right. Okay. Yeah. Now, yeah, it's I know chickens. If you keep them awake and keep them in light, they'll just keep eating. So yeah, I get what you're saying there. Okay. So now, where was my notes here? This is the first interview I've done, so you'll have to bear with me a little bit here. Okay, so now, what are you trying to accomplish with regards to
no problem.
Yeah, with regards to Antler specifically? Are you trying to get them to stop serving venison, or is it a little bit more subtle than that?
Can you hear me still?
I can hear you just fine.
Oh, I can't hear you, but I'll answer the question that I heard, the part that I heard. It's like I said, with every restaurant, okay, that's fine. You got cut off for a second. With every restaurant, it's about dialogue, having dialogue with the owner, and just to make some menu changes. And I've been successful. People don't really know about my past because they just see what's in the spotlight now with all the media. But I've gone to other restaurants, we educate the public, and I've sat down with other restaurant owners. I had one restaurant owner come with me to a chicken vigil. That's where you see the animals en route to slaughter. I said, I want you to face what you contribute to, because it's easy to disconnect when you just have a menu and you don't see the animals. And he did come, and he was pretty emotional. So
yeah, it's certainly, you know, when you see the process of towards slaughter, whatever. Yeah, it can be quite emotional. I've actually, when I was in elementary school, we did a tour of the Guelph University, and I lived in Ontario when I was a kid, and they took us, of all places, to the abattoir. So I've seen some of it. I've also out here in the West, I've actually been to a feedlot as well, and I can tell you that the animals that I saw were treated well, and they were
Yeah.
fed well. You know, it is what it is, as I said. But my experience on the feedlot is the people there, and I was talking with one of the people on the feedlot, and she was talking about how much she loves the animals and wants to make sure that they live a healthy life while they're there and that they're well cared for and such. So that is what it is. And you know, as I said, we may disagree a little bit there, but that's fine, of course. So something now with respect to antlers, something just recently happened that brought the story to some international attention. Can you tell us a bit about that?
But hang on a second. Hang on.
Sure.
Okay, I was about to say something, though you're saying she loved the animals, so I
Yep.
need to address that.
Okay.
You don't hurt what you love. That's the hypocrisy in it. You don't hurt what you love. If you love your dad, you love your kids, you love your dog, that's not love. I don't understand how that's love.
Okay, that's a fair comment. I think maybe the term love is it may not be the right one that I'm using. It's there is an emotional investment that this lady had in the care and the well-being of the animals, of course. Now, obviously, she knew full well where they were going and what the next step of their journey through life would be. I know that as I'm a cat owner myself, we've got 3 cats here in my house, and the most difficult decision I had to make was end of life care for a previous cat who would start having seizures due to a brain tumor, and the most difficult decision we had to make was to put him down, of course. So you know, I guess you can agree or disagree as to whether or not that's an appropriate course of action. We truly believed it was the kindest thing that we could do, and as emotional and heart wrenching as it was the right thing in our view to do for the animal because he couldn't make the decision for himself in that case. So if you agree with me or you disagree with me on that, I respect your opinion either way. That's kind of where I'm coming from there with respect to what I was saying about this lady's opinion on the feedlot. So. Was there anything else you wanted to
So
say about
that
that?
cat, I just want to say that cat. I just want to say something.
Sure.
That cat lived out. Yes, if you can hear, that cat lived out his life that way. I agree with ending suffering. That cat a full and that
Okay, let's just.
world be killed.
Okay, I'm gonna have to.
You can do more research, but all of the talking about veal, but the babies, they're all just a couple months.
Okay, I hate this. I hate to interrupt you. It's not because of the answer that you're giving me. It's because the audio has gone absolutely crazy here. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, there you are. Okay, excellent. Okay, so sorry about that. Now let's maybe we can pick it up
Okay.
from where you were talking about what the story that I gave you regarding my cat, because I think that was getting interesting to me at that point.
Sure. Okay. So
Okay.
where did we leave it off when I was talking about how all the animals are baby?
Yeah. Well, basically the
I mean, yeah.
I lost you just as you were starting to address because I shared you the story about putting my cat down and the heart wrenching decision that we had to make there, and that was when I lost you. So it was a very difficult decision to make, and and you were responding to that.
Yes, so I'm responding to that. So your cat, I'm sorry to hear, by the way. But the beautiful thing is, because I had a dog that I had to put to sleep, and at the end of her life, I have to say, everybody thought it would be the hardest thing in the world for me because she was my sidekick. I took her everywhere. We were inseparable, but I actually felt really at peace. Of course, I was sad, but I knew I gave her the best life possible. I mean, just she had everything. I would do anything for her. So she had a great life. She was 16 and a half, and I had no regrets. Now, the difference is in animal agriculture, all of these animals are just ready to be killed, and they're all babies, all of them, because you were maybe earlier. The chickens are babies, the pigs are babies. They're all just months old, not years. They're months old. That's it. They're just in this world for a short time.
Right, right. Okay, I see the difference and I see the distinction that you're making there. Okay, so that's fine. So let's move towards what happened, which really propelled this story and brought it across my desk. How I managed to, and can you tell us about what happened there and where things sort of exploded a little bit for you?
Sure. So I began telling you I chose Antler, but what happened that particular night was we had already been there a few times doing we call it outreach slash test. Outreach means that we talk to the public, we have dialogue, we educate them about the industry. And that night, I guess the owner of Antler, Michael Hunter, had kind of had it with us. And so he brought out the leg of a deer to a window seat where patrons would normally sit, and he started to carve it up in front of us and then went back, and about half an hour later brought back the cooked leg of a deer. So actually understand is because I go to chicken vigils, I'm just saying this is an important part because everybody wants this sensationalized, because I go to all sorts of vigils and I see animals in terrible conditions with missing limbs and crying and still alive. It's far less traumatizing to see an already dead animal, which we did see that night, obviously.
Right, right, and I know that he kind of I've read some of the stuff that I've read says that he kind of regrets doing it after the fact. Now, one of the things he said is that members of the community, and you can address this as well because I don't know if it's true or not. Were they talking to people who were entering the restaurant? Were they? He says they may have been yelling or shouting the word murderer. I don't know if it's true. Do you know anything about that?
Yes, he's correct that we did say that. But to get perspective, I've done many, like I said, these outreach protests, and that doesn't happen. We don't
Hmm.
scream murderer. I mean, that's just never happened. Obviously, people got upset when they saw that, when they saw this large leg of a dead animal. Yeah, we care about animals, and we got upset. So people started screaming that. But again, never happened before, and it hasn't happened since.
Right. Okay. That's fair. I think when I think he escalated it a bit, and I think that was probably, he says he regrets doing it, and um, because I think, it is what it is, and that escalated it to a new level. I think when emotions get involved, I think the number one thing you need to do is de-escalate and make sure that you're talking about the issues, and as you said, you know, exchanging ideas and educating versus any attempting to intimidate or whatever. And I'm not saying that you would be doing that. It's just that's kind of what my feeling is. You de-escalate, you talk, you keep things rational and friendly rather than go up to the next level.
So to let you know, I completely agree with you,
Yeah.
and I'm all for communication and dialogue. And we actually normally follow pretty strict rules. I guide everyone. I say, don't block the entrance. Don't touch the window of the establishment. That's private property. Don't scream at people. have dialogue. Only if they push you, don't push back. I mean, we follow pretty strict guidelines, but yes, it escalated that night.
Yeah, and you know something? If I were to ever attend a protest, that is, or even lead a protest, what you've just described is exactly the same thing as I would say to my group as well. You don't stop people. You don't from getting access if they want it. If they say, you smile to them, you say hello, you offer them some literature if you have it. If they decline to take it, that's fine, but you don't. You don't want to make you don't want to, again, escalate it to the next level. So what kind of response have you had from the public at large?
I've had a mixture. I've had a lot of attacks and a lot of support.
You've had both, yeah. And
Messenger. I've had stop angry, posting my address all over social media.
you've been doxxed?
I had the thing. Pardon?
You got doxxed?
Doxed?
People?
Yeah, I guess that's the word. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. That's, you know what? I don't care who the person is. That's just wrong. You never, ever, ever post someone's personal private information like that. It's just wrong. It's just wrong. And I condemn that.
It's wrong. I agree.
Yeah. I condemn anyone for doing that. That's just, you don't do that, because it immediately raises the level of even if there is no threat, it raises the level of perceived threat against you as an individual, and that's just wrong. So
It is just wrong, and they also don't know the story with social media / the media in general is it is a blip.
Okay, the audio's cutting out again. Okay, try that again. Oh, lost the connection. Oh, I can hear it attempting to make a connection.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hear me? Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, it felt like Verizon. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Yeah, no, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
We were just talking about doxing and how wrong that is, perceived threat, and
Sure.
And so on. Okay, so I think we were in agreement there. So, even if I disagree with you on an issue like this, I think that's just it's just the wrong thing to do.
Yes, and correct.
Okay, so you've had you've had a mixed reaction. I've seen, on your Facebook page, I think there's been some interesting posts and comments being made, and
yes,
and so on. Okay, so you know what, we've covered a lot here, actually, and I think really we've had a great exchange of ideas. I think we may as well just leave it here, because the other questions that I've got here written down, I've pretty much covered in the course of our conversation. So thanks for speaking with me, Marni. If people did want to get in touch with you online, how could they reach you? What's the best way?
Well, like you said, I mean, everybody found me quite easily these days with Facebook. They just were sending messages by Messenger, so that's easy.
Okay, perfect. All right. Well, as I said, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today, and I wish you all the best with your goals.
Thank you. Take care, Stephen.
Great. Yeah. Bye-bye now.
Okay. Bye-bye.
I also reached out to Chef Michael Hunter, who is the owner of Antler, but I am disappointed to report that he didn't respond to my request for a discussion. The invitation does, however, remain open. For me, it comes down to an issue of how to get your message out appropriately. As you heard me say to Marni, the rules for dealing with the public need to be very strict. You don't prevent anyone from accessing the venue. You don't harass anyone. In fact, you simply keep a smile on your face, you meet people, you greet people, you say hello, and you respect whatever response they give to you. If they decline your invitation to take some information, you politely say thank you, and you move on. But there's a bit more here. My point that I just made is certainly valid, but when you see a store across the road with a group of demonstrators outside of it, do you really want to approach? Their very presence is intimidating, and it can take people a lot of personal resolve to approach such a picket line and cross it. So while Marni and her friends have a right to be there and express their opinion in a peaceful way, they're still potentially harming Antler's business. Now, it seems to me as if their demonstrating has backfired a bit, since Antler has hit international news and it's virtually impossible to get a reservation now. It looks to me like it's ended up as a positive for Chef Hunter. In fact, I think it's probably a win-win situation, since Marni and her group have also been given publicity from this. They've raised awareness of animal cruelty. And of course, as I said, Chef Hunter's business is booming. So really, I think it's a wash. And lastly, Marni, if you're watching, I'm going to stay a meat eater, but I did look into foie gras as we talked about, and it's never really been on the menu here because it's incredibly expensive anyway. But now that I've seen what they do to the geese to make the stuff, it's off the menu permanently.